Story 1. I would be more afraid of humans, to be honest. I would wrap myself in duct tape for armor, attach some knives to my baseball bat, and try to clear a grocery store to make it my base. However, I would eventually be attacked by raiders. Story 2. It depends on whether the zombies are like those in The Walking Dead. In that case, I would just go on and fight when needed. However, if they are like those in Resident Evil, the whole world would end, so I wouldn't bother. Story 3. Go to my local medieval museum and take a set of armor. Literally, nobody thinks of this. It is foolproof armor made of metal, and it moves and bends quite nicely. Story 4. Honestly, I'm not going to worry about the zombies too much. However, what I have learned from the few zombie documentaries is that there will always be a random samurai sword just lying around. And I really want one of those. Story 5. Remove the staircase, live on the top floor, sleep in the attic, and build a greenhouse on top of the carport. Focus on elevated living. Story 6. Take the car and go to my mother's. Eliminate Phil, grab Liz, head to the Winchester, enjoy a nice cold pint, and wait for all of this to blow over. How is that for a slice of fried gold? Story 7. I will grab some popcorn, sit on a rooftop, and enjoy the live version of The Walking Dead, hoping the zombies leave at least a little brain behind. Story 8. I have two neighbors who are even more obese than I am. As long as I can run faster than they do, I'm fine. However, that 50-year-old wiry redhead down the hall might cause me some problems. Other than that, almost everyone in my building is so old that they are toothless, so I feel secure even in a worst-case scenario. Story 9. I thought it had already happened. Instead of eating your flesh, they are after your money, happiness, peace, and freedom. Story 10. Depends on the zombies. For the 28 days later variety, just jump off a building. It's fast and fun. For classic shamblers, steal an RV and drive to northern Canada. Story 11. Depends on how the virus affects humans. Do they unlock their full muscle strength? Can they run or move at superhuman speed for unexplainable scientific reasons? Do the zombies start deteriorating as soon as they become fully infected, eventually collapsing and dying completely? Do other zombies resort to cannibalism for the fallen zombies that don't survive in order to sustain themselves? What are their triggers and how sensitive are they to specific sounds or visual cues? There is much more to consider before executing a specific plan along with respective countermeasures and initiatives. What is unrealistic in movies is when, for example, a loud sound is made in a large area filled with obstacles and rooms. Suddenly, every zombie within half a kilometer knows the exact room, corner, or space you are hiding in and all flock there. With how echoes and other audio-changing factors work, there is no realistic way real zombies would be able to pinpoint your location just from a loud sound or similar cues. Basically, every zombie is suddenly given extraordinary vision when they hear a loud noise. That wouldn't happen if zombies were real. Simply staying in your house and being quiet would suffice. Electricity, heat, water, internet, and cell services would still be functional because workers would be at the facilities or called upon due to an emergency. They may not be informed of the specific emergency, as the government would come in to manage that, temporarily withholding news and information to set up a perimeter and launch a plan of action all at once, followed by various other responses. Story 12. Why do you keep asking us? We are on to you. We will stop you, and you will never see it coming. No secret plans for you. Story 13. Do everything I can to help the virus spread. I will do whatever it takes, even if it means biting people myself. It is the cure for humanity. Story 14. Couple shotguns and a flamethrower. No way the zombies win. Watch the other humans. They will take everything they can. Story 15. I would barricade the bottom of the stairs with everything and live in the attic for a while. I am a dedicated prepper, so I have water and food stored already. Story 16. I have been sick for 2 days. I don't know if it's a man flu type of illness, but I feel like I am dying. Maybe I can give it to the zombies and stop the outbreak if they eat me. Story 17. 1. Grab as many weapons as possible. Barricade. Cover any visible light sources outside. Go outside when necessary, scouting 3 times. Morning, noon, and afternoon. Not at night. Check for any sources of food. Go to the source if needed. Capture zombies for labor. Eliminate zombies that cannot benefit me or my family. We kind of survived. Story 18. I would throw my vinyl at them. Headshots. Once I'm out, I will call Aubrey Plaza. She's going through some challenges, but it might take her mind off things. Aubrey has a plan. Story 19. Outlast them. Stay home as long as I can, eating perishable food first and non-perishable food second. Once I'm close to running out, which should be at least 2 to 3 weeks in, I will start searching empty neighbors' apartments for food and medicine. I will never leave the building. Zombies will begin to rot a few days in, and by the 2-month mark, the vast majority will already be gone, either due to starvation, dehydration, or decay. Honestly, the hardest part will probably be finding drinking water. However, if I start filling bottles as soon as I hear about the zombies, by the time the faucets stop working, I will have at least a couple of weeks' worth of water. Story 20. Walking Dead zombies, Resident Evil zombies, or Last of Us zombies. Either way, I'm a corpse within the week, but I want to know if there's a chance I run into Leon Kennedy before I go. Story 21. Play the Deadpool version of Madonna on repeat over a stadium speaker to attract the audience and then exit confidently. Story 22. One idea I find intriguing is the concept of a facility designed for isolation, similar to what I encountered while working in emergency dispatch. It would be ideal to have a structure where you can manage access and control who enters and exits as needed. The space would provide ample living areas for multiple individuals, with dedicated zones for basic necessities and plenty of security equipment. If individuals from your community become overly aggressive and pose a threat, it would be straightforward to isolate them, given that it is essentially a correctional facility. The premises would be equipped with numerous surveillance cameras both inside and outside to monitor activities. Overall, it seems like a viable option for safety and security. Story 23. It is amusing that everyone believes they won't be the zombie in this situation. Most likely, you will be the zombie. The zombie represents you. Story 24. It would be a good time. I am just having fun. Finally allowed to harm people without consequences. I would love it. Story 25. Laugh at all the individuals who get infected because they couldn't stay indoors. They couldn't do it for COVID-19, so I highly doubt they are capable of doing it at all. Story 26. I live in Canada, in a city, and I have 3 months of dehydrated food and water, blankets, matches, and a first aid kit. All because we live near a fault line. We are advised to have this earthquake kit in case a significant event occurs. I also have a firearm and am likely the only one in my postal code. I feel prepared because if people reacted to a real catastrophe like they did during COVID-19, hoarding toilet paper over a cold, well, let's just say I have little faith in others if things escalate. Story 27. Take a pistol, point it in my mouth, and pull the trigger. Even if I survive the zombie onslaught, I would not want to live in that world. I'll face the judgment when I arrive. Story 28. Try to get the horde tangled in a large net. Then definitely die. Story 29. With the power of God and anime in my hands, I shall prevail. In reality, I would probably trip and fall. Story 30. Zombies cannot take over. They would be a minor annoyance. Walk faster than them and avoid getting bitten. Additionally, no one will shut down the government for zombies, as people value power too much. Story 31. I live in a remote area, so my first priority is to stock up on canned food and gas bottles. I can drink from fresh rivers, collect plenty of firewood, and barricade my space as best as I can. I aim to survive long enough for the zombies to decay. In the meantime, I will learn guitar and read numerous books. If we are talking about World War Z zombies, I would rather end my life. Story 32. Let's talk about game plans since Trump took over first. I always thought doomsday preppers were absolute nutcases, but a couple of weeks of supplies and a shelter sound pretty interesting now. Story 33. 1. Stockpile essentials, including food, medicine, weapons, and thick clothing, as well as building materials. Stay at my husband's aunt and uncle's lake house for a natural border and access to fishing. Build a fence. Start a garden. Be selective about who joins my safe space. Locate solar panels. Learn to use resources to create food and medicine, which may involve searching for books at the library. These points are not necessarily in order but highlight key considerations. Story 34. Typical shambling, mumbling zombies. Wait. The problem will be addressed in a relatively short amount of time. Any kind of fast, smart, advanced zombie. Panic, I guess. Story 35. Head to the Federal Armory and stock up. Steal a couple of stocked vehicles from the supermarket warehouses, add in a fuel tanker, and head into the bush. Story 36. Grab a gun, but do not use it. When I end up dying, I will make sure to die in an awkward position so the main character can find my remains, feel scared for a moment, and then take my fully loaded gun. Story 37. I'm pretty sure I would struggle to survive. I apologize to my wife and dog, but living through a zombie apocalypse sounds extremely challenging and exhausting. Story 38. Well, it would be an improvement over how things have been going lately, so I would just have a Coke and wait. Story 39. Brains, 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 brains. Just being realistic about what side I'd likely end up on. Story 40. Fast zombies? Let's be realistic, we are all doomed. Slow zombies? Find a high property such as a mountain cabin, lookout center, or resort lodge, and take refuge. Hunt, fish, forage, and farm. Story 41. Gather ammunition and food. My dad, my brother, and I should stick together because we all have weapons and our family is safe in my parents' compound. It has high ground, so I would throw Molotov cocktails from there and shoot from that position as well. The ammunition in my armory would likely be in high demand, so we would either need to steal it or try to anticipate the attack and stockpile early in the morning. Story 42. I have a bug-out bag and a range of equipment and tools that would be useful in a survival situation. I also have a stockpile of food and water that would last me about 2 months, even more if I stretch it out a little. My apartment has one entrance. I will barricade it with everything I have and monitor broadcasts while keeping a low profile. I consider myself among the top 10% of regular individuals who would be able to ride out an apocalypse, at least for the first 2 months. Story 43. Our sailboat is almost completely self-sufficient. The only reason we need to return to land is to restock. We can easily keep a year's worth of food on it if necessary, including beans, rice, and bread. We would just disappear to an uninhabited island until it all blows over. Story 44. Gather climbing gear, tents, and camping supplies. Go to the roof of a tall building. Secure the stairs or block access in some way. If you need supplies, lower yourself on a rope or use it to set up bridges to neighboring buildings. Story 45. First stage fight, but you need to become a male fetal version of Rick Grimes to survive. Then give up, maybe. There are no bathrooms, no internet, no television, and no games. Story 46. I'm not sure where I would go, but if I had to travel anywhere on foot, I would make some armor out of soft drink bottles. They are light enough that they wouldn't encumber me much, but they would withstand bites very well. All I need is a hole punch and some sturdy thread to tie it together. For added stability, I would sew it onto a lightweight jumper. I live in a rural area, so I would search for a farm and tell its owners I will help defend the farm as long as I am allowed to use their livestock for provisions. I dare say most sheep and cattle would be better at escaping zombies than humans if the typical notion of them lacking intelligence holds true. If they are fast zombies, I think we are all in trouble and on borrowed time. In Australia, there will not be a surplus of guns for defense. Therefore, getting to a place with low population density would be a priority. So, in the short term, finding shelter in the countryside would be the plan. But if things looked like they were getting worse, I would try to get to an island somewhere. Story 47. If they don't have any sort of superpower, then just stay at home for a couple of weeks. They'll all decay within weeks. Story 48. They already have this in the States. So let's play Hunter: The Reckoning. I've never played it, and it sounds interesting based on descriptions I've heard. Everyone on my street is well armed and mostly trained. If needed, we can literally lock down our street from outsiders. We have food production split among us and trade with each other frequently. One of us even makes their own diesel. The funny thing is, none of us are doomsday preppers. That's just how it worked out. I'd say we're pseudo-country, not fully in the wilderness, but the countryside is just 5 minutes up the road. I'm waiting to see if the United Nations or the European Union take action against the zombie horde. I'm exhausted from living in these chaotic times caused by foolish people who became part of the zombie horde. I could really use some normalcy back in my life, where the biggest issue being voted on is whether or not to change a paint job. So let's play tabletop games until the cows come home. Cue some good tunes and pass the snacks, friends. Story 49. Find a quick and painless way to end my life. I have no chance of surviving a zombie apocalypse. Story 50. I will stay locked down in my house for a few weeks and let decay take care of most of the zombies. Afterward, I can safely go out to resupply and easily eliminate any remaining ones that haven't decomposed into a foul mess. Story 51. It depends on the type of zombies. If they are from The Walking Dead, I would probably try to survive. If I encountered the zombies from World War Z, I would likely hide in the attic until I succumb to dehydration, as those creatures are truly terrifying. Story 52. I worked in a large retail store for years and was often the first one in the store in the morning, so it was quiet. I thought about this often and planned it out in my head. Due to my various roles, I knew every single inch of that place. In the event of a zombie apocalypse, I would get there with my family and secure every door with chains so that nobody else could get in. I had spotted gaps in the delivery yard that could potentially provide entry, and I would block them off. The yard was large and open, leaving no place for anyone to hide. I would block the yard entryways with delivery vans. The main store's windows were triple-layer laminate glass, so they were pretty secure, but I would lock and block the doors from the living area and back offices to the main store. This way, in case anyone got in, they couldn't reach my living area, and I would limit visits to the main store to reduce the chances of being spotted. I had devised an escape route via the roof access, which was behind several very solid doors, and had several ladders ready to escape to a nearby remote area. The facility had a large main warehouse with separate caged areas where I would set up sleeping areas for my family, as well as multi-story racking to hide on top of in case anyone got in and caught us unawares. I gave it a lot of thought. Story 53. I will go to the nearest mall and just hang out there. Who is going to stop me? An army of walking dead corpses that can barely walk? Story 54. I have a hunch that if we feed them something better than brains, we could possibly restore them. Who would turn down homemade lasagna? Story 55. I own a power bank, literally hundreds of them, along with an emergency power generator that runs on water and can charge my phone and documents. If one or two zombies are trapped and I can see them, and they can't get to me, I would sketch and document their behavior, feeding them meat, celery, and bread to observe their reactions. I planned to turn my living room into a garden. Once a week, I would go outside and scout with a fire axe, knife, and gun to check if a police station has been looted. If there are survivors, I would bring them back to my place, quarantine them for 2 weeks, and make them my friends. Together, we'll build a wall outside my apartment, then expand to 4 apartments, then a block, a district, and eventually the city. Story 56. My wife and I were eating at a Brazilian steakhouse when she asked me a question. Then she started crying. We felt doomed because we live near a cemetery and our daughter wasn't able to walk yet. The server approached us with some chicken. Do you want this one? Story 57. Step 1. Barricade wherever you are. People are more dangerous than zombies at this point. Avoid people and stay where you are. Step 2. Stockpile supplies. Gather as much water as you can, as it is key to living longer and city water will be shut off soon. Take inventory of the weapons, tools, food, and medicine you have. Prepare to ration them. Step 3. The worst will be over in 48 hours, but it is still dangerous. Once you start running low on supplies, explore your surrounding area for more. Be careful, as zombies and people are still a threat. Your initial base is your only known safe spot, so do not venture too far from it. Step 4. Once enough time has passed and you are completely out of supplies, head to the nearest military base. While they may be portrayed as ineffective in movies, in reality, they are well-trained, armed, and have a clear chain of command. Your best chance for survival now lies with the military. Step 5. If the military is not an option, head towards islands. Go to the nearest water source, get on a boat, and navigate to an island large enough to sustain life. Water may provide protection from zombies and other people. Story 58. Do nothing. No rotting corpse can break out of the coffin, and even if they somehow manage to do so, my asthma-ridden self cannot take any action. Story 59. I am a bit overweight with severe arthritis in one knee. Please continue without me, as I will slow the group down. Story 60. Call your friends and grab the tools we have in our backyard. They are for orange picking. Story 61. Looking at the political situation in the United States, it has already happened. So, I suppose I will do what I usually do. Story 62. Get away from the major population centers for the first few weeks. Once the initial chaos has passed, venture into one of the smaller towns to gather food and other supplies. After that, return to a remote area and continue to live there, practicing subsistence living. My plan is to avoid major population centers for the rest of my life. Experience has taught me that nothing good comes from trying to coexist with large groups of people during a crisis. They may harm you for what you have or, in this case, because they have become a threat. Story 63. Most important is to find or build a community of skilled survivors. Gather and craft basic equipment as soon as possible. Bows and arrows, water, food, duct tape, armor, noise distractions, and medical supplies. With the community, identify the most optimal area to build a safe zone and start farming to extend survival time. Listen to the radio for any upcoming updates. It is crucial not to trust anyone outside of your community, but you will need to trade. Start crafting items that everyone needs, so ideally you won't have to scavenge for food, and people will bring food in exchange for well-crafted bows and arrows. Story 64. It depends on the type of zombies. If they are similar to those in The Last of Us with spores, I am committed. If they are like those in Zombieland, which require being bitten to mutate, then I would find a safe place to hide, preferably away from large areas, and wait for the flesh of the zombies to decompose and fall apart, which may take a couple of months. Story 65. Going to the nearest aquarium with sharks to get shark suits. Shark suits should be good enough to avoid bites. Thank you for the idea. Story 66. Just take my loss. What's the point in fighting it if we are all going to end up the same way anyway? I live in a city. I'm in a tough situation. Story 67. I wouldn't want to survive. I have seen too much about what life is like afterward, so I would want an easy exit plan. Story 68. Raider, thank you for all the doomsday prepping you did for me. I live near a water treatment facility that is inside a dam. That will probably be my main base of operations, which I will use for protection, trade, and negotiation with any local forces. If you attack me, I will disrupt your clean water supply in a desert during an apocalypse. Story 69. Fight to remain human for as long as possible, but also carefully choose and wear my zombie outfit because once bitten, I won't care enough to change it again. Story 70. Depends on your location in the world at the time, but the general idea is to take a plane and fly to Alaska. Story 71. I have been preparing for this for years. Start by planting 2 rows of sunflowers, 2 rows of snow peas, 1 row of tall nuts, 1 row of spike weeds, and maybe some flaming jalapenos. Story 72. I would probably die right away, who knows? Simply because my mom would die without her thyroid medication and my aunt would die without her insulin. I would be too grief-stricken to have any wits about me. If the situation didn't factor in medical conditions, we would go to my dad's house, pick him up along with all the firearms, ammunition, and hunting equipment. We would gradually visit all the family homes, gathering everyone up with supplies. We would slowly travel north into the trees and away from people towards our traditional territory. Of course, we would loot what we could along the way. We would most likely be walking until we could find horses or other means of transportation. Story 73. popcorn, because that is not happening. If you are from the United States, then please let us know your plan, as it seems those individuals have taken office in your government and have already begun to have aircraft falling from the sky. Story 74. I've told my wife this, so don't come at me, but I will shoot first and then figure out what I'm doing. There's no way I'm dealing with her during a zombie apocalypse. She's a nightmare in a civilized society. Story 75. Well, if it's the brain-eating kind, I am safe and just act normal. If the others start all the fires, I can manage everywhere. Story 76. The state of what we call a civilized society now. I would just let myself go as soon as possible. The situation with the zombies versus what remains of humanity would both be equally horrific. I might as well just get it over with. Story 77. Go to the woods for approximately 2 months while chaos unfolds, and those who lag behind are affected. Find a group to join that will accept me for my supplies. Slowly start forming bonds with a maximum of 5 people I can manage. Stage a hostile takeover. Become nomads with my small group of followers using the newly acquired supplies. Story 78. Well, if it came to a zombie apocalypse, I would hike to Vanuatu. There are no zombies there. I would be as safe as a baby. Story 79. A few years ago, I would have told you how I was prepared and how I planned to make it through this. Now, honestly, I would probably struggle. I have an eye disease that has compromised my left eye significantly, and my right eye is deteriorating as well. My depth perception is impaired, making it difficult to see clearly. I would find it challenging to cope. Story 80. Barricade myself in my house. When zombies arrive, I'll stick my hand outside. I'll get bitten and join the horde. I'm too lazy to mess around. Story 81. I wouldn't worry too much. Zombies are typically slow and unintelligent, unable to organize or coordinate. The first 72 hours will be the worst, so I will just lock my doors and cover my windows until it's sorted. Story 82. Try to act like a zombie to check if they are really brainless or if they can sense that I am acting. Story 83. I live on a farm with solar panels, and my neighbors have firepower. My husband will protect us or die trying. Story 84. Lots of variables. Is it a walking zombie or a running one? How do you get infected, through a bite or airborne like in Left 4 Dead? Story 85. I have never seen a zombie movie where zombies climb trees. Therefore, I would build a treehouse and live off fruits, barbecued squirrels, and birds for the rest of my life. I am looking for suggestions on other sources of food and water. Story 86. I would be terrified of what would happen if I encountered other humans, and getting bitten sounds horrifying as well. So, I would consider taking myself out at the very beginning. Story 87. Become their leader by telling them they are oppressed by the living and that they deserve free brains. Story 88. I will find the Twinkies. They are not just any Twinkies. They are the last box of Twinkies that anyone will ever enjoy in the entire universe. Story 89. We have a restaurant depot, high cement walls and gates, along with plenty of food and supplies to cook with, so we stay there until it passes. Story 90. It depends on the zombies, of course. I would get to my cabin in the mountains. It would likely take days for zombies to reach the nearest populated town. I have enough fresh water and fish to sustain myself. I would conduct regular supply runs, gradually build a perimeter, and become self-sufficient. I might use one of the other cabins as a backup, assuming it is vacant. I would probably fear people much more than zombies. Story 91. Steal a car, take some food and a weapon, then ride off to solitude and wait for everything to settle. It's that simple. Story 92. Make it my very impossible mission to try and make it to the Midwest from South Florida. There's so much land and space up there that the chances of running into a zombie in the middle of nowhere are significantly lower, right? Story 93. Too late. They have already taken over every freeway underpass across the entire West Coast. Its current name is labeled Progress. Story 94. I will probably die. I'm not prepared enough. Once the electricity and water cut out, I would likely survive only 2 to 3 days before needing to forage for supplies. Then I might either get bitten by a zombie or scrape myself on a rusty piece of metal and die from tetanus. Story 95. I will teach them that anyone named Trump is exceptionally appealing and delightful. I will encourage them to tell their friends to join in a Trump-themed celebration. Story 96. I would stay home while others are leaving. Highways and roads will be a mess as everyone panics to leave. Scared humans are more dangerous than zombies. Story 97. Find an island or at least a boat to fish if possible. Otherwise, I guess going to a rural area to try to fish, hunt, and survive is an option. I am not sure if I could do that, though. Eventually, if I were to survive, I would start farming, and my next goal would be to build fences or other obstacles to stop zombies and looters. Story 98. Two aspects that films often overlook are that zombies would eventually starve and that fire is their ultimate weakness. The issue of starvation is straightforward. With time, they would simply disappear. Regarding fire, picture a solid fenced barrier with 100 zombies on the other side trying to reach you. Now imagine casually walking along the fence and setting them ablaze with a torch or drenching them in gasoline and tossing the torch. Movie over, the end. These elements are often disregarded because they provide overly simple resolutions. Story 99. I already have a property with its own well and solar panels. I plan to build a nice 10-foot brick wall around the property, disconnect from the city water and power grid, and plant a variety of crops. I might also take over the neighboring properties, get some livestock like chickens and pigs, and acquire a significant amount of firearms and explosives. Story 100. Go to an isolated wooded area and rely on basic survival skills. Crowded urban areas should be avoided at all costs. In a zombie outbreak, the zombies themselves are manageable. The real danger is other people. Story 101. Go to my family cabin that is 300 kilometers away from any significant urban centers, fish, hunt, and farm potatoes until the zombies find me. In that case, I will immediately take my own life. Story 102. Get across Edinburgh to the Fourth Rail Bridge and cross over to Fife. I will try to make my way north to the Highlands. There are fewer people up there, so there are fewer infections. If I could reach Eilean Donan Castle, maybe I could move in. Story 103. I don't think that being a zombie would actually be a bad thing, except for always being hungry for human flesh. Story 104. I live in a small town, so I would probably face danger trying to raid the only grocery store. I guess it beats becoming a zombie. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.